Well, he got firestormed with questions. The commissioner's weekly or annual press conference, he really got bombarded with questions. He had some unique answers, though. First, you talked about Tua. 32 different quarterbacks had major injuries this season in the league. Some of the teams had to go through 4 quarterbacks. It's just the nature of the game. The concussion number was up, John. It was 149 concussions this year, up from 122 last year. However, Goodell's response is they have changed the protocol so much that there's so much in-depth evaluation. If a player gets dinged, they're now likely to find even more concussions just because of their way of approaching it. So I buy what the league says, and even in the midst of the Tua controversy, they changed the structure of how many doctors, the independent neurosurgeons, would have access to the data of a player who got dinged. So therefore, I think the concussion number goes up because I do buy what the league says. Their ability to investigate the players now is better than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, obviously 10 to 20 years ago. That's an item. Goodell also got bombarded with questions about minority hiring. There are still 2 head coaching jobs that are open, won't be filled till after the Super Bowl next week. Arizona, Indianapolis, there are currently 6 minority head coaches, which is about the max it's been. We could get 1 or 2 more. There have been an increase in the number of offensive and defensive coordinators who are minorities, notably African Americans. So I think the league has made some progress there in the whole interview protocols for every position. John, if you own an NFL team and you're going to hire a new president, you can interview whom you want, but you will interview some significant minorities the league will recommend. And that holds true for general managers. That holds true for head coaches and any of the 3 coordinator positions. You must interview multiple minorities that the league has recommended or that you want to bring into the mix for conversation. So I think the league has done a decent job. Interesting story that really nobody paid any attention to. The NFL, quote, at the end of the season, flexes the TV schedule. Mm-hmm. Well, they'll take certain games and say, this is going to be our featured game this weekend. Might be on a Sunday night game, etc. They're going to start that for Monday Night Football. So the league will have the ability, the back half of the schedule, to say, we're taking that game out and we're putting a marquee game in on Monday night. It's all about TV ratings. And next year, they're going to evaluate maybe doing it the same thing with the Thursday package. Amazon had the Thursday package this year. Numbers were not really great, but the demographics hit the jackpot. They're younger demographics. They wanted young viewers, 18 to 25, 18 to 34. Those numbers were really higher, but because it's subscription, not on free TV, they did not get the kind of viewership, mass viewership numbers that they'd had in the past. So that's where the league is right now. But his press conference was kind of steamy. A lot of heated questions about minority hiring, a little bit about concussions, but I think the league's doing a good job. Your reaction?
Well, it's interesting that the young demographic was on Amazon because it's all going streaming. I mean, that's where everything is going. And, us old coots, we're watching it still on the cable channels. But I want to go back to the concussion issue because I was listening to an interview on CNN that Chris Wallace did with Terry Bradshaw.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. And he talked about how, he got knocked around a lot. He blacked out on a lot of things. He knew he had some concussions, but there was a lot more that happened. And they asked him, is pro football a very dangerous sport? And Bradshaw paused and he said, it's dangerous, but I wouldn't say it's too dangerous. But, Bradshaw might be missing a few marbles in his head too. So
that's interesting. Sometimes the stuff that comes out of his mouth is a little sideways, and you say, "Ooh, where'd that opinion come from?" But obviously, when he played and started in the '70s into the '80s, is a very different game. It was not policed very well as it relates to the violent hits. I mean, I was in Cleveland when he got turned upside down and smashed on his neck by Browns defensive end Joe Jones. It was a really bad situation. But I think the league has taken tremendous strides forward, and it's easy to second guess and it's easy to be critical until you realize where they've come from and what they do behind the scenes to protect the players. And I would say the bulk of the players now are of the opinion we are being taken care of to the best of the league's ability. But it is a big game, a fast game, a violent game, a physical game. So you're going to get guys, but who get dinged. The bigger issue is, what do these guys wake up when they're 50 years old, and do they have CTE? Do they have memory loss problems? That's down road still to be determined. But I think the league is doing everything it humanly can do with its medical people. And I could not have said that 15 years ago. I could not have said that prior to the concussion lawsuit and the settlement. I think the league's doing a lot of positive things.